Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today I'm very pleased to announce that Stomaria is now producing a small amount of energy through solar power. Stomaria has always sought to attain greater levels of self-determination and self-reliance through legal and legitimate means in order to attain a de facto independence. And trying to attain total or near total energy independence is a big part of that plan. So according to Ofgem, the average UK household uses about 2,900 kilowatts of electricity every year, which equates to about 8 kilowatts of electricity every day. Now, our own household in Stomaria, we only use about 1,100 kilowatts of electricity per year, which equates to about 3 kilowatts of electricity per day. So this is one of the few times that I'm very proud to say that we are below average. So our original plan, in order to bring that figure down further, in order to lessen the amount of kilowatts that we require the United Kingdom for, we were going to install a solar panel at Southwood. Now, this is something that I have been doing a lot of research into, as I do for all of aspects of Stomaria and this nation building project that we have going, because I think if you're going to do something, it is worth doing right. And so over the years, I have picked up a lot of information about various different aspects of this, from the quality of passports, the quality of steel for sabres and all the rest of it. It's all very niche things that I'm learning more and more about, and this is no different. It's not particularly niche as such, but it is something I'm learning more about. Now, I was surprised actually to see and to learn that in order to establish a solar panel on your property or on your premises in some form or another, even on a small domestic level, there are a lot of components. I think maybe a lot of people thought, and I probably in my ignorance thought as well, it would be as straightforward as installing a solar panel, having a battery, solar panel catches the sunlight, produces energy into the battery, and then you can use that battery to power certain devices. But it's not as straightforward as that. So what it is that you need not just a solar panel and a battery. A lithium battery, I think, is the preferred one that a lot of enthusiasts and people that actually use solar panels recommend. The other components attached to that is the charge controller and the inverter. Now, without getting too technical about this, not least because I myself am still learning about it and I'm no expert on this, the solar panel is generating what they call direct current power. And this goes through the control charger and it goes into the lithium battery. But you can't use the direct current power straight from the battery, as I understand it. And that is what the inverter is for. So from the battery, it goes through the inverter, and then through the inverter, you can power household appliances, for instance, because it is being turned from direct current power to alternating current power. And that is what you use in your everyday lives. When you flick on a switch, when you have a lamp, charge your phone, or whatever else, you are using alternating power, not direct current power. And that is a fundamental difference, I think, that I was certainly not as familiar with as I should be, because you hear about these things, but until you really have a need to actually learn about these sorts of aspects of our daily lives, you really don't really necessarily delve into it too much. And that's something that I love about building Stomaria, is that you just learn so much more about the things around you, things that you might not have even given any consideration or thought to. And so With all that said, the original plan, as I say, was to install one of these solar panels on a shed at Southwood. We were going to buy a shed, purpose-made. We were going to have the 400-watt solar panel on the actual roof, and then the battery, the inverter, and the control charger were going to be inside. We were going to feed it inside, and then from there, we could potentially use the power from the battery to charge devices while at Southwood. So it would be a usable source of power, a usable source of energy. However, the two issues with that is that Southwood is obviously a woodland, and so the amount of power, the amount of energy that we could generate would be hindered by the fact that it would be in a relatively shaded part of the world. There are areas of Southwood which are in more direct sunlight than others, but you're never going to get a 24/7 sunlight. It's obviously not going to be 24/7. You catch my meaning. You're not going to get as much direct sunlight as you would otherwise. Is what I meant to say. But the other issue, and the one that was more of a concern, was that even though that we could happily afford the £300, £400, £500 for the initial setup, if you're depending on the brand you go for. If you go for a decent brand, I think that's what sort of figures you're going to be looking at. But even though that wasn't going to be an initial issue, what is an issue is having that amount of equipment and the value of that equipment just kind of sitting in the woods, which, although there are people there intermittently, depending on what the Waywoodians are doing, it's not like 24/7 security. So someone could theoretically just walk onto the woodland and just take it. And that's not something that would be too happy to replace in a heartbeat, especially if it's going to be a routine basis. We can put CCTV cameras up or whatever else, but at the end of the day, there is nothing we can do to prevent someone, if they wanted to, from simply lifting that equipment out. And so we are very conscious of the fact that anything that we leave at Southwood is something that's either going to be bolted down or simply not worth taking from a potential thief's perspective. So we're not concerned, for instance, about potatoes going missing. I don't think anyone's going to come and sort of lift some potatoes or take our topsoil necessarily, although in the years ahead that might be a case. Who's to say? But all that aside, the alternative route that we've decided to go down is to purchase power banks and portable solar panels. And obviously these are a lot simpler, a lot cheaper, and a lot less efficient and a lot less effective. But having tested this myself, we have managed to use a 28-watt solar panel by Big Blue, I think the actual brand is called, and the result was very impressive because we left it out in the sun because it's obviously portable. I can just move it around wherever it's required, and it charged a power bank, and that power bank has been fully charged, and that has the capacity to, for instance, recharge my phone 5 times over. Now, I should stress and reiterate as many times as I can in this video, and I haven't done yet, so I'm going to start now. This is a tiny, tiny step forward in the right direction, because we could have done this 2, 3, 4 years ago. We could have bought a tiny little portable solar panel pack and a power bank and done that. But we didn't, because we had greater ambitions. We thought we might be able to get around installing solar panels on the territory that we eventually purchased. And that is still going to be the plan, because even though we are starting from this very, very, very low-key, small, very basic starting position in terms of energy independence, I do have a vision of Stomaria having land further down the line where we will be able to utilize solar panels and even wind turbines in a more meaningful, direct way. Now, I know people have a lot of opinions on solar panels, on wind turbines or whatever else, but this is the ideal energy source for entities such as ours, because you might argue that you might have nuclear power, for instance, as a far better alternative, far more efficient, far more reliable, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's obviously the issue of the nuclear waste that comes from that. I think there are potentially ways of getting rid of that nowadays. I don't know. I'm not a huge expert on this field, but I do know for a fact that Stomaria is not going to have a nuclear power station. But what we can have is solar panels. What we can have are wind turbines. We can't afford to spend hundreds of millions or billions of pounds on infrastructure, on such a scale that we can build, coal-fired power plants or nuclear power plants or anything like that. If we want to attain self-sufficiency or energy independence, then we have to go down the route of pure green renewables. And I am not adverse to that whatsoever, because I am a keen environmentalist and a keen ecologist, and despite my own ignorance on how solar panels actually work, I do know that the efficiency of solar panels is increasing year on year. The efficiency of the batteries being able to store energy is increasing year on year. Our technology is only ever going to improve, and the costs of solar panels and wind turbines and all the rest to actually manufacture these, they're only going to come down. And this trend of more efficiency and lower cost is going to gradually push the rest of the world, I think, into the direction of solar, wind, hydroelectric, or whatever else. But green is the future. And I think there is something quite patriotic, and I don't think this is probably touched upon enough on a lot of, for lack of a better term, right-wing groups or organizations or parties, in that it is exceptionally patriotic, I think, to utilize green energy. I don't think many people on the left would agree necessarily. They might recoil at that sort of idea. But the idea that you could provide your own energy for your own nation, for your own community, for your own people, I think that is a very strong position to have. Because, the recent events, for instance, in Russia, has shown the rest of the world, has proven without any shadow of a doubt that it is better to be able to produce your own energy, to produce your own fuel or resources, whatever that may be. It'll have to be a renewable fuel, a biofuel of some sort in a lot of cases, because obviously you can't just magic up fossil fuels from the ground. But the idea that we are constantly relying on outsiders to supply us with the basic bare necessities of life, to quote a familiar song, is quite scary, I think. And I think this has been brought home for a lot of people, because a lot of the people saying we need more energy independence, we need to be able to provide for ourselves, we can't be so reliant on external forces. People that were sort of shouted down and told to, go sit in the corner because they don't know what they're talking about. These people have been proven to be correct. It is the right thing to do to be able to produce your own energy. And speaking personally, I think this is something that should be not even just boiled down to the national or even to communities, but to individuals, each individual to produce their own power, simply by having some solar panels on the roof of their home or a small wind turbine blowing away in the breeze somewhere. That sort of vision I have for the world, I think is better than one where we have massive, coal-fired or nuclear power plants going 24/7 to produce our increasing demand for energy. I think it is far better just to utilize everything around us with very minimal harm, comparatively speaking, to the surrounding world. That's just my opinion on that anyway. I've sort of gone off script, gone on a bit of a tangent as I normally do. I wasn't actually intended to talk about any of this. But since I am, I did want to say that I am going to be making a video a little bit later, where I am hopefully going to be doing some more research in terms of water purification. Now, this is something I wasn't going to advertise too much just yet, because I haven't actually started the research process in depth. I have done a little bit of digging in terms of like how to have a water purifier for an off-grid lifestyle, because that's really our starting point. We can get more sophisticated in terms of like indoor water purification further down the line, but a good starting point, I think, is always just to look at, what are backpackers doing? What are people that are going camping doing? They have portable solar chargers, they have portable wind turbines, they have smaller water purifiers, I believe, where you can turn rainwater, or you can turn seawater, or you can turn river water into drinkable water. And again, that's just something that's very important in terms of reducing reliance on the wider world, the communities outside of our own, because being able to provide our own water, being able to provide our own food, being able to provide our own energy, these are all very important components in trying to attain our vision of a de facto independent community, of a de facto independent nation and empire. And this is what we are striving for. So if you did want to become a part of the Stomarian community, then please feel free to do so through our Patreon campaign, the link of which you can find in the description below as always. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, then please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.